Hey guys, it's Tom here from Metalloud, and it's time to take a look at the album Louder Now from Taking Back Sunday. This album is turning 10 this year, released in 2006, so I'm going to be taking a look back and seeing how it held up over the decade. So every band kind of has that quintessential album, that album that really kind of emphasizes exactly what the band is about, what their sound is. If you're a fan of the band, this is the album you would use to get other people into that band. For Taking Back Sunday, Louder Now is that album. This is really kind of their peak, so to say. I mean, not that any of their albums are really bad, but this is kind of really where Taking Back Sunday becomes Taking Back Sunday, and this is really the best example of what they can do as musicians. So even though this isn't the original lineup or even the current lineup, this is still a great bunch of musicians fronted by Adam Lazzara and even Fred Mascherino in here, who later left the band after this album. Still a fantastic guitarist, and it really kind of shows on this album. Now, Louder Now was a bit of a response to some fan criticisms about how their music on their albums didn't necessarily capture the energy of their live shows, and I have to agree with that a little bit. Their first two albums, Tell Your Friends and Where You Want to Be, really were kind of products of their time. They were qualified as emo by a lot of people, especially in the mainstream audiences, and reviewers kind of labeled them as such. And there were kind of a lot of bands around that time that were a bit of a dime a dozen bands, and they kind of really sounded the same. And Taking Back Sunday kind of, a lot of their songs fell into that. Even though they had a ton of catchy, awesome songs on their albums, they kind of fell into that trap a bit with their first two albums, and kind of blended into the crowd a little bit, per se. Like I said, there were a lot of bands at that time who were doing similar music. However, what they recorded compared to what they played live was a almost completely different band. There's so much more energy in their live shows that just really wasn't there in their first two albums. However, Louder Now, which again was a response to that kind of criticism, really did manage to emphasize what Taking Back Sunday is when you see them live versus when you hear them on their album. This is really the first album where it really sounds the same played live as it does on the actual album itself. Fortunately, like I said, with their first two albums, a lot of their songs kind of got lost in translation as far as live versions compared to the album, where the live versions were definitely the superior versions. I remember back in the day talking to people who had seen Taking Back Sunday live and thinking, hearing them say things like, oh, there was a mosh pit at Taking Back Sunday, and thinking, how do you have a mosh pit at Taking Back Sunday? It just seems kind of unnecessary or not really fitting with their sound. But after seeing them live a few times, you really kind of understand that feeling that they give when they're on stage like that, and bring that all back to Louder Now. That's really kind of captured on this album. So the album kicks off with this great intro track called What's It Like to Be a Ghost. It's got this kind of twangy guitar sound in the beginning, and just kind of kicks in with the drums, and everything just kind of comes together. It's not necessarily an intro track. It's a self-contained track on this album, but it's a really good kind of transition from Where You Want to Be to kind of introduce this sound that they're changing to on this album. They also took two of the songs from this album and made kind of really big singles with Liar and Make Damn Sure, which also kind of really showed a bit of a transition from their previous albums onto this album, and they became really, really big hits. I mean, I heard these played on more mainstream radio that I was kind of surprised to actually see the videos on like MTV and things like that, because I was kind of at the time when MTV was kind of getting away from music videos, and so and then hearing the songs on like main rock radio was kind of cool to hear, because it was my music that I wasn't really used to hearing on those radio stations. Diving deeper into the album, you get two of my favorite Taking Back Sunday tracks, which would be Spin and Error Operator, which are just these really kind of hard-hitting sounding songs, and they almost don't even feel like Taking Back Sunday songs. They're kind of almost borderline mixing in some kind of like hardcore punk in there, and they just really do a good job with those two songs. I feel like they really do stand out on this album. And overall, there really aren't any bad tracks on this album. There's a few ones that I didn't particularly like, or I feel like don't really hold up as well, but nothing that's really bad to say. Tracks like Up Against and even My Blue Heaven, they just really don't fit well with me. Like I said, they're not bad songs. I listen to them, I like them, I get what they were going for, and I'm sure they're some people's favorite songs from Taking Back Sunday, just not particularly interesting to me. I feel like Louder Now is also kind of where Taking Back Sunday really started getting the hang of songwriting. The only thing that kind of really held back Tell All Your Friends, and particularly Where You Want to Be, was they've kind of felt juvenile in the way that they were written. They kind of, like I said, products of their time. There was all that high schoolness going on in music, and they really kind of fell into that. And Louder Now really kind of feels more like a mature album, like they're moving past that stuff, like Cute Without the E and stuff. Feels, even though that's a great song, probably is my favorite Taking Back Sunday song, it's really not that advanced in terms of structure or anything like that. And I think Louder Now really kind of advanced them into the songwriters that they are today. So overall, after 10 years of this album, I'd have to say that not only is this still my favorite Taking Back Sunday album, I think it's grown on me. I actually think I like it better now than I did back then, mostly because of where I am with music at this time and where I was back then, and kind of because I didn't really have the full album back then. I kind of had, LimeWire rips of it, and half the songs were like cut off, but listening to the whole album throughout the years, and where I am now with my music tastes and things, I really think this album, well, it's always been my favorite Taking Back Sunday album. I think it's actually grown on me to the point where I like it even more now, and this is the album I would definitely promote to anybody's trying to get into Taking Back Sunday. This is the one I would go to, and really, if I had to say, what is Taking Back Sunday, I would definitely point to Louder Now, and I kind of hope that they, with their new album that should be coming out this year, I'm really hoping that they do kind of recapture some of this in Louder Now. There were some great songs off of their last album, Happiness Is, but nothing I felt like really kind of stood up to Louder Now. Again, nothing that was bad, but just I feel like Louder Now is that good that they've set the bar so high that I really kind of hope they hit that again.